Hello everyone and welcome back to another video by EonTalk. As always, I'm your host Ian, and today I've prepared a video on the best movies of the first half of 2021. Can you believe we're already past the halfway mark of the year? It's crazy how fast time has been passing by, and I sincerely do hope the world recovers to normalcy soon with the whole pandemic. There are a lot of amazing looking K-movies upcoming in the latter half of 2021, but before we anticipate what's to come, let's take a look back and appreciate the Korean films that have been released thus far. I'll be going over all the movies that I watched that were released in 2021 and ranking them from the worst to the best. I've watched a total of 12 movies that were released from January to June 2021, and I'll link the full reviews to the movies in the descriptions down below. I'll just be giving a brief explanation and review of the movies in this video. Please remember, this list will be based on my personal preferences and are totally biased towards my opinions. That being said, this video may be on the longer side, so grab a drink and snack and settle in as I introduce to you the K-movies that released this year so far and how good they were. Starting off the list, the number 12 movie of the first half of 2021 was the action comedy that released in February, Mission Possible. Directed by the first-time director Kim Young-ju, Mission Possible starred a duo of Kim Young-kwang and Lee Sun-bin as the two main leads. The movie is a mixture of a secret agent/spy movie with action and comedy, and revolves around an inexperienced secret agent having to go on a highly dangerous mission with a strange man. The synopsis is as follows. Woo Soo-han is the owner of a private detective agency that would do anything for money. One day, a secret agent that goes by Yoo Da-hee shows up and offers him $10,000 to go on a mission with her. The mission? To resolve an arms trafficking case. The two completely opposite agents begin the case, but as they progress further and further into it, situations get more and more out of hand. From leaving traces behind for the authorities to getting framed as criminals, the secret mission to stop arms trafficking in Korea begins. Overall, Mission Possible was a very light movie. It reminded me of films like The Soulmate, Extreme Job, and OK Madam, other Korean action comedies, and the movie has very over-the-top comedy. But as you watch, you get used to the exaggerated comedy, and once you get used to it, it becomes enjoyable. And if you're a type of person that enjoys this type of comedy to begin with, then you'll have an enjoyable time anyways. I gave the film a ticket price value of $8. Next, the number 11 movie is the drama film that was also released in February of this year, titled Double Patty. Double Patty was directed by Baek Seung-hwan and starred the leads Shin Seung-ho and Irene of Red Velvet. Contrary to its title, the movie isn't only about food, although it does have a lot of diverse dishes, but revolves around two different individuals and getting involved in each other's lives. The detailed synopsis is as follows. A girl, Hyunji, who aspires to be an anchorwoman, and a boy, Uram, who wrestles and has big dreams. These two meet coincidentally when Uram goes to a burger joint Hyunji is working at, and there, Uram falls for Hyunji the moment he sees her. The two don't have anything in common except that they both face their own hardships that they must overcome. In that common ground, they find hope and encouragement in each other. Double Patty was a good light watch and definitely something you need to watch if you're a fan of Irene, Red Velvet, or just K-pop in general. It's great to see more idols getting the opportunity to give acting a go. As for the movie itself, it had elements to be good, but I can't say it executed to its full potential. I personally think it would have been better as a K-drama, as it tries to go over too many topics and stories that just doesn't work under 2 hours, and so it felt all over the place. It's not bad, but it's also not something you need to watch in theaters. If it becomes available on Netflix or other streaming services, I definitely recommend giving it a go. I gave Double Patty a ticket price value of $8. The number 10 movie is the mystery thriller that released in April, Recalled. Directed by Seo Yu-min, Recalled featured the leads Seo Ye-ji and Kim Kang-woo. The synopsis of Recalled is as follows. Soo-jin wakes up after a bad accident, not able to remember anything. Next to her is her husband, Ji-hoon, who's very caring and understanding. Once she's released from the hospital and moves back into her home with her husband, she starts to get sudden flashes of memories. She first thinks these are flashes of her remembering her past, but later realizes that it could actually be in fact flashes of the future. Soo-jin is understandably very unstable, and her husband does whatever he can to calm her down and get her to a stable condition, but the flashes continue. However, she runs into an old acquaintance on the streets and learns of something very surprising of her husband. With her not being able to remember her past, and her learning of new things of the present and her life prior to the accident, Sujin starts to unravel mysterious truths about her life. Recalled was a mystery thriller that had lots of twists and moments of suspense. If you know me, you know I love Korean mystery thrillers, as I personally think Korean cinema is amongst the best when it comes to the genre. I can't say that Recalled was a must-watch, as I thought it didn't really have anything new compared to typical thriller mysteries, and there were lots of holes to the story, but I still had a really good time watching it. Definitely worth the time watching if it's available near you or on streaming services. The ticket price value I gave for Recalled was also $8. The number 9 movie is a movie that was delayed and released in time for the Lunar New Year, New Year Blues. This melodrama was directed by Hong Ji-young and was originally supposed to release on New Year's Eve of 2020, which would have been a perfect timing for this film, but was delayed to February of this year. New Year Blues starred the likes of Kim Gang-woo, Yoo In-na, Yoo Yeon-seok, Lee Yeon-hee, Lee Dong-hee, Chun Dul-ling, Yeom Hae-ran, Choi Soo-young of Girls' Generation, and Yoo Tae-oh, a very solid cast lineup. The movie is about 4 different couples going through different life events prior to the start of the new year. The detailed synopsis of New Year Blues is as follows. Jio, a 4th-year divorcee detective who's in charge of a personal protection program, and Hyo-young, a perfectionist health trainer who's the person receiving the personal protection with an ongoing divorce suit. Gina, a contract worker at a ski resort who leaves for Argentina after being dumped by her boyfriend, and Chaehyun, a local wine delivery man in Argentina who fled to the country after being burnt out by reality. Yao Lin, a soon-to-be bride that moved to Korea from China ahead of her marriage to Yongchan, the head of a travel agency who was robbed of his wedding funds, and his sister, Yongmi, who's upset about losing her only brother after the marriage. Daewon, a Paralympic national team member who feels sorry towards his girlfriend due to the prejudice of the world, and Oh, who believes there shouldn't be biases when it comes to loving someone. The stories of these 4 couples who all face their own difficulties leading to the new year begins. New Year Blues is a very feel-good vibes type of movie and good for a light watch. The movie is on the cheesy, cringe side, but if you embrace that, I think it's a pretty enjoyable film and you'll find yourself cheesing it every here and there. Thus, go into it without much expectation, which I understand is hard to do knowing the cast members, but you'll have a much more enjoyable time if you do so. I gave the film a TPV of $10. Moving along, the 8th film of the movies of the first half of 2021 is the action thriller that released last month, Hard Hit. This movie was directed by Kim Chang-ju and starred the leads Cho Woo-jin, Lee Jae-in, Jin Kyung, and Ji Chang-wook. The film was based on the Spanish movie Retribution, and in its first week of release, it retained the number 1 spot at the box office and actually recorded to be the highest selling thus far in 2021. The synopsis is as follows. Sung-yu, the head of a bank, receives a call from an unknown number on his way to work with his kids in the car. The mysterious voice warns that there is a bomb in the car and that it'll explode if he gets up. Sung-yu assumes the call is a voice phishing scam and doesn't think much of it until he soon witnesses his colleague's car exploding in front of his eyes. Reality hits him and he suddenly becomes a suspect in downtown Busan with the police chasing him down. Unable to get out, hang up, or say anything to the authorities, Sung-yu must keep the unknown caller happy and save his and his children's lives. Overall, I thought Hard Hit was really good for the first hour. There were lots of suspenseful moments and got really thrilling. It had some of the best action and suspense, but after about an hour in, I have to admit that it got a little loose. Not to mention there were forced emotions as it progressed further into the story. But with the limited action and thriller films we've had out of Korea, or I should say good ones, then this is up there in relative terms. It's also worth mentioning that the acting was great by the cast in this. I gave Hard Hit a ticket price value of $10. The number 7 film was the April-released action SF, SEOBOK. Directed by Lee Yong-ju, SEOBOK featured the leads Gong Yoo and Park Bo-gum. Just having these 2 A-listers in a single movie had immense ticket power, and adding genre elements of sci-fi and action enhanced that effect even greater. SEOBOK was another film that was originally supposed to come out last December but was delayed and made a simultaneous release in theaters as well as the Korean streaming service, TVing. And speaking of streaming services, if you would like to access more Korean content such as K-movies and K-dramas, I highly suggest using ExpressVPN to access the Korean Netflix and even other Korean streaming services. By using ExpressVPN, you can bypass geo restrictions, meaning you can be from anywhere around the world and access the Korean servers. If you'd like to access more Korean content, be sure to sign up for ExpressVPN using my link in the descriptions or expressvpn.com/EonTalk and get 49% off an annual plan plus 3 extra months for free. Better yet, if you sign up and don't like the service, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, meaning you can cancel anytime within the first 30 days. Getting back to the video, the synopsis of SEOBOK is as follows. Kion is a former special intelligence agent who quit his job and cut himself from the outside world after a traumatic event. One day, he suddenly received an offer from the intelligence agency that he cannot refuse. His mission is to safely transfer SEOBOK, a highly confidential test subject made from stem cell cloning and genetic manipulation. However, they are suddenly bombarded mid-transfer, and SEOBOK, who spent his entire life inside the test laboratory, is intrigued by everything in the outside world, and Kion just wants to hurriedly complete his mission. As the two set off on a special journey together, there are various organizations coming after the highly classified SEOBOK. All in all, I thought SEOBOK was an entertaining sci-fi action flick, and having the two main leads of Gong Yoo and Park Bo-gum made it that much more enjoyable. If you like movies such as The Witch Part 1 The Subversion, I highly recommend watching this. Sure, there were parts about the movie that was pretty predictable, but it still was an enjoyable journey, and as long as you don't have too high of an expectation, I think you'll have a good time watching this. The ticket price value of SEOBOK was $10. Going into the number 6 spot, the number 6 movie goes to another great sci-fi film, being released in February, titled Space Sweepers. Space Sweepers was directed by Cho Sung-hee and was a new endeavor in terms of genre for Korean cinema, space opera. Having an all-star cast of Song Joong-ki, Kim Tae-ri, Jin Sung-kyu, and Yoo Hae-jin, Space Sweepers was yet another film that was delayed from 2020. The synopsis is as follows. In the year 2092, Earth becomes nearly uninhabitable and a major corporation called UTS builds a new orbiting home for humanity in space. However, not everyone can flee the sick Earth, and only a chosen few can venture out into their new homes. In the spaceship known as the Victory, the crew of Teo, Captain Jang, Tiger Park, and Robot Bubs collect space junk, but they unexpectedly discover a humanoid child robot named Dorothy, who's known to be a weapon of mass destruction. In order to pay off their debts and fulfill their desires, the crew members decide to partake in a risky deal to send off Dorothy. However, they find themselves in much more complicated situations than they had originally thought. Overall, Space Sweepers was a good, fun watch. No, the story wasn't anything mind-blowing, but for sure the CGI and effects were. You can tell they invested a lot in the VFX as the movie had one of the best CGIs in Korean films, and I really enjoyed the visuals the movie had and was ultimately satisfied. And the fact that it's available on Netflix is a big reason as to why you should give this a go. I gave Space Sweepers a TPV of $11. And now, the top 5 Korean movies of 2021 thus far. Which movies rank the highest on my list of favorite Korean movies of the first half of 2021? Let's get right into the list. Coming in at number 5 of the best Korean movies of the first half of 2021 was the emotional drama that released in February, I. Directed by Kim EonTalk, I featured the cast of Kim Hyang-gi, Ryu Young-kyung, and Yeom Hae-ran and had a very indie feel vibe. The movie revolves around a single mother who has to juggle between her job and raising her baby son and a college student who's hired as a babysitter that also has struggles of her own. The detailed synopsis of I is as follows. Ah-young has lived a hard life to say the least. In need of money, she takes on a babysitting job to take care of Hyuk, a 6-month-old baby of the single mother, Young-chae. Young-chae faces difficulties of her own and life's been just as unforgiving to her, but she wants to and does whatever she can to raise Hyuk right. As Ah-young gets comfortable with taking care of Hyuk, things seem to go well for everyone. However, Hyuk gets in an accident one day and Young-chae puts all the blame on Ah-young. When circumstances started to look like they were getting better, everything went back to square one. I was a very real movie and I very much appreciated how it wasn't forced. It did an amazing job at showing the rough life of the main characters and the ending was very powerful and emotional. This is definitely a movie I recommend watching. The ticket price value of I was $11. The fourth movie of best movies of 2021 thus far goes to the romantic drama film released in April, Waiting for Rain. Directed by Cho Jin-mo, Waiting for Rain starred the leads Kang Han-eul and Chun Woo-hee and also had a special appearance by Kang So-ra. When first watching the trailer for Waiting for Rain, I was definitely intrigued but was also a little confused. There are some puzzling parts about the movie, but that's what made it even more enjoyable. The synopsis is as follows. Young-ho was living a life without dream or purpose, just trying to get into university. One day, nostalgia hits him and he recalls an old friend from elementary school. Remembering the good old days, Young-ho decides to write a handwritten letter to his old friend. So-hee was living a life working at her family's bookstore with her mother. One day, she receives a letter for her sister, So-yeon, from Young-ho. She decides to write back as long as Young-ho promises to keep a few promises. To not ask questions, to not ask to meet, and to not come and find her. And with that, their fates cross paths and start writing each other, and as they get closer and closer, they decide to meet on December 31st if it happens to rain that day. But will Young-ho's hopefulness for rain be enough? Waiting for Rain had a wide range of elements, from humor, emotional, nostalgia, acting performances, and being realistic. The film definitely had a lot going for itself. The movie started off very strong, but I have to admit that it did slow down a little. With that being said though, it is still one of the best movies to release so far this year. If you are able to see this and it's available, I do recommend giving this a go. The ticket price value of Waiting for Rain was also $11. Next, the number 3 movie goes to the crime drama that released in May, Pipeline. Pipeline was directed by Yuha, the director who also directed other famous works, and starred Seo In-guk, Lee Soo-hyuk, Eun Mun-seok, Yoo Seung-mook, Tae Young-ho, Bae Yu-ram, and Bae Da-bin. The film shied away from director Yuha's previous well-known genre, which is more of a darker, noir gangster genre, and this was more of a comedic crime film. The synopsis is as follows. Pindori is a genius driller that's a legend when it comes to oil theft. One day, he receives an offer from a conglomerate successor, Konu, to partake in a grand-scale oil heist. Thus, he teams up with the master welder, Newbird, the man who has the underground blueprint embedded in his head, Chief Na, the human excavator, Big Shovel, and the watchwoman, Counter, to rob millions of dollars worth of oil. However, everyone has different plans and objectives, and once these start revealing, things take a turn for the worst. The members all dream to turn their lives around, but will they be able to succeed in the biggest heist of their lives? As mentioned, Pipeline was a film that was a different and new challenge for director Yuha. Although it wasn't up there with some of his other great works, I'd say it's still worth watching if you're in for a comedic crime movie. One thing I suggest though is to not set your expectations too high, as that can lead to disappointments. That being said, if you're a fan of Seo In-guk, Lee Soo-hyuk, or any of the other cast members and enjoyed films such as Collectors and The Thieves, I'd say this is worth the watch. I gave Pipeline a ticket price value of $12. And now just 2 movies left. The number 2 film goes to the March release film that had amazing music, The Box. The Box was directed by Yang Jung-un and starred Cho Da-hwan and Chanyeol of EXO. As with Double Patty starring Irene, it's great to see more and more idols getting the opportunity to act in feature films. The synopsis of The Box is as follows. A washed-up former hit producer, Min-soo, coincidentally discovers a young male, Ji-yoon, singing and playing the guitar, and he's instantly mesmerized by his potential. He aspires to get Ji-yoon to become a singer, but there's just one problem. Ji-yoon gets extreme stage fright. However, Min-soo can't give up on the potential that Ji-yoon has, and so they sign a contract to have Ji-yoon perform 10 times in various locations while being inside a refrigerator box. And thus, the two leave on a nationwide tour to get Ji-yoon's name out and possibly cure his fear of the stage. If you like music and musical dramas, I highly recommend watching The Box. The film was full of amazing music and the movie was pleasant both to the ears and to the eyes. If you have the opportunity to see this, I highly recommend giving this a go, especially if you're a fan of Chanyeol, EXO, K-pop, or just music in general. It's amazing what they were able to accomplish with the limited resources and budget they had, as this was a smaller production movie. If you don't have access to the film, then I suggest at least checking out the original soundtracks of the movie, as those are very addicting. The TPV of the box that I gave was $12. And finally, the number 1 movie of 2021 so far. The number 1 movie goes to the most recently released film on this list, Midnight. Directed by Kwon Oh-seung, Midnight was a thriller that featured the cast lineup of Shin Gi-ju, Ri Ya-jun, Park Kun, Hee Hae-yeon, and Kim Hye-yoon. No, the film didn't have the most A-list actors and actresses, but it was amazing nonetheless. As mentioned before, Korean cinema is one of the best when it comes to the genre of thrillers, and Midnight was a great example of that. I've been craving a good thriller out of Korea, and it's safe to say that this one delivered. The synopsis is as follows. On her way back home, the hearing-impaired Kyung-mi witnesses Sojung on the street, bleeding. She tries to help her, but ends up becoming the new target of the serial killer, Toshik. In order to survive, Kyung-mi frantically runs away, but because she can't hear even the mere sounds of the killer's footsteps, it makes it even harder to escape from the murder. To make matters even worse, the culprit returns bearing a new face, threatening her and her surroundings. Will she be able to escape the horror of Toshik and win in this unstoppable thriller chase? Midnight was one of the best thriller/chaser movies I've seen recently. The acting was phenomenal by everyone, especially Shin Gi-ju and Ri Ya-jun, and the cinematography and auditory elements of the film was incredible. If you are a fan of Korean thrillers, this is one that you need to check out. I gave Midnight a ticket price value of $13. And that's it for today's video on best Korean movies of 2021 so far. There were good movies that came out thus far, but I expect there to be more amazing films to release in the remaining months of the year. Please remember that this list was composed of only movies that I've seen and are biased towards my opinions. If you enjoyed this video and would like more similar content, be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to check out the full reviews of the movies linked in the descriptions down below. Also, sign up for ExpressVPN using the EonTalk link to access more Korean movies and support EonTalk on Patreon for more K-movie content. If you have video requests, please let me know by commenting down below. Thank you to everyone that watched till the end, and I'll see you guys in the next one.